I'm going to give you a few tips for this late season, the late summer season and the fall season. So when Ambika was talking, she was bringing up the point of air has the quality of dryness, and then fire has the quality of heat. So right now we're in a season, the previous season we were accumulating dryness, and right now we're moving into the season where dryness is at its seasonal peak. And then heat is starting to accumulate, and then next season in fall it'll be at its peak. Which sounds funny in San Francisco. If you're from the city, you're like, what do you mean heat? I don't understand. But if you think about it, we only have 2 weeks of heat, and they're in the fall. So that kind of makes sense. And so in our previous season, our digestive capacity was low, but we're actually moving to the season where it's going to be even lower because we have dryness, and we're adding heat to that dryness. So when you think about your digestion, it is a fire in your body. So if it's hot outside, your body's trying to balance you, so it's going to reduce that internal heat. So you actually have a lower digestive capacity. So we want to start doing things that'll support that natural process that's happening. So when I think about summer, I actually think of my cat, who as soon as it turns to summer, it doesn't have to be hot outside, but as soon as it turns to summer, she starts to eat about half of the quantity that she ate before. And I always worry. I'm always like, oh no, what's wrong? She's sick, something's wrong, she's not eating. And then I remember, oh, nope, she's just better at being in tune with nature. So this season can lead to, if we don't watch out, it can lead to some indigestion, to dryness internally, externally, and it can lead to burning sensations. So whenever you're trying to balance something, the first step is avoid adding more of those qualities. So instead of looking for the medicine or the thing to put in your body to fix it, you can start by not adding things that are going to make it worse. So some things to avoid would be anything that adds more drying and more heating qualities. So that might be crackers, popcorn, dry toast, dry granola. Some spicy foods might be your chilies, your jalapenos. And then here are some that are more common that maybe you don't know are actually heating, but fish is a heating food. Peanut butter or peanuts are a heating food. And eggs are a heating food. And then once you move away, so those are that's a top of just the skimming it, right? But just remembering those qualities of avoiding dryness and avoiding heating. And then you know when you put something in your mouth, you know if it makes you feel dry or if it makes you feel hot. And you might say, not this season. And then some things you can do foods you can eat are, a good one for this season is ghee. Ghee is also called clarified butter. And ghee actually stimulates your digestion. So in this season of low digestion, you can actually have a food that'll help to stimulate your digestion, but it's cooling. It's made from, it's dairy, and dairy is sweet, so it's a little cooling. And you might want to avoid your mustard or your peanut oil, because those are very heating. So the ghee will give you a little oiliness, but it's not just any oil. It's like liquid gold oil. And the next thing to keep in mind is to not overload your digestion. Because you have this weak digestion, you want to be like my cat, and you want to eat a little less. And she doesn't do it out of like punishment to herself. She does it to be healthy. So it's paying attention to what your actual capacity is. So that might be a smaller portion. It might be lighter food like khichdi. And if you don't know where to get khichdi in a restaurant, because that might be hard, then you can look online for a recipe. You can check out our YouTube channel, has a lot of recipes on there. Mung dal in general, so your mung beans are really good for your dals. And we still eat cooked food in this season. We don't switch to eating cold food because it's not the temperature that we want to change. We eat cooked food because it's easier to digest. So if you switch to eating a raw salad in this season, it's harder to digest, and you have a weak digestion, so you're doing it a disservice. So you want to still eat your cooked food. But if you have extra fire in your body, like it's kind of hard. If you have more fire in your body, so it comes to lunchtime and you actually get hungry, and then if you don't eat right away, you get a little cranky. So I actually, when I make my lunch, I'll just let it cool down in temperature slightly, but I'm still eating a cooked meal. And then you go on to, you want to actually support the digestion system. So you can still cook with your spices, but you don't want to use such overly heating spices. So some good spices for this season are cumin and fennel and coriander. And if all of this is new and you're like, now I have to go buy spices and I have to find this khichdi thing and mung dal and all this, well, we have our own store here, but we make seasonal spice mix. So all the spices that are good for this season are in the packet already. So you don't have to add another thing to kind of figure out, where do I find this cumin or where do I find this coriander. It's all in here. It's pre-roasted and ground, and you can just put a little into whatever dish you're making. And it doesn't even have to be a khichdi recipe. It can be anything you're cooking. It's going to start to help you. And this is a good time for more cooling foods in taste. So again, not in temperature. It's not a time for ice water, but it is a time maybe for coconut water or coconut flakes. Cane sugar. We still have sweetness. It's still a really great school. We still have our sugar and our ghee. Raisins are sweet and cooling. Rice. And wheat can be a little heavy though, so you still want to pay attention to your digestion. You might want to roast the wheat before. Barley, even water is a sweet food, and milk. And again, milk we like to cook and make into our spiced milk recipe. Foods with a high water content are important. So like zucchini or any of your summer squash, beets, or okra. You think about when you cut into a piece of okra, it's a little slimy inside. Think you're just adding that sliminess back into your body. So whatever was drying out, you're adding it back in. Asparagus, butternut squash, pumpkin, sweet potato, and oppo. This is one of my favorite vegetables, so I actually brought it as a demo, but it's also called dudi, or oppo. And it's really easy to prepare. You can cook it in ghee with your spices. And generally, we don't normally recommend fruit juices, but this is actually an okay season to have some fruit juices. Not with ice, and then keep them in a small quantity. And you want to have sweet fruits, maybe grapes, mango, peaches, pears, and pomegranate is good. And then one more point is that we're very fond of our boiled water. We like to have hot water whenever we drink water, but in this season, again, you don't want to bring that temperature up, but you can boil your water and then let it come to room temperature. So those are our food tips. And then moving on, we'll go into some more behavioral tips. So what you can do in your life. And so remembering that there's more dryness in this season. So dryness can be internal and externally. And so we already went over what you can do internally by eating differently. And then what you can do to improve externally or even emotionally in your mind. So when you picture a mussel, and it's nice and it has plump from water content, right? And what happens if you dry a mussel out? Would it be stronger or would it be weaker? It would be weaker, right? So this is a season where it's a little more weakness in the body. It can come as less energy, it can come as fatigue, or even a scattered mind. I know I live in San Francisco, it tends to be a little windy, and there are days when my mind is a little scattered. And so what can we do to counteract that feeling, that ungrounded feeling. Or this is even a season where you might have insomnia. So again, the first step is to reduce or avoid things that are causing it. And then the second step, you do things to balance it by doing the opposites. So what can we do to reduce it? We mentioned foods earlier. This is a time to not really overexert yourself. That's probably the hardest thing you'll hear today, right? To like not overexert, to do less. It's really hard, but it's a really great time to make that a part of your practice, to maybe say no to something. If you're overbooked in your schedule, maybe just say no. You're going to sit home and meditate, or you're going to sit at home. So just to be more restful in our actions. It's not really a time to stay home and take a nap, but you might stay home and do a restorative yoga pose. And it's important to exercise throughout the season, but to maybe switch up how you're exercising. So if you generally do a very strenuous exercise, maybe you take a yoga class instead this season. And that's a hard thing to say because in the city or in the area, you might go to a yoga class and it's still really rigorous. So maybe you try a gentle yoga class or a restorative yoga class. And you might want to stay out of the Bikram studios during this hot and dry season. You might shorten how long you actually do your exercise for. You might just do a few rounds of a sun salutation, Surya Namaskar. And forward folds are really grounding. You're on the earth. So you're actually, that scattered mind, it'll turn off. They're really great, and they actually work on lengthening your muscles. So when your muscles are drying out, you're going to start to give them a little more lengthening, a little more flexibility. And another good thing about forward folds is they promote digestion, a better digestion. So it's really a great practice in a bunch of different ways. And then for that scattered mind, that mental dryness, that's exactly what it feels like. Like your mind is drying out sometimes from being so scattered. So some things you can do are, first off, try to keep a regular schedule. Go to bed. We like to go to bed by 10 p.m. And trying to wake up at or before 6 a.m. So keeping a regular schedule will just already put your mind in a better place. Your mind is going to work with the daily parts of nature. And then daily meditation restores your mind. So if you've ever practiced meditation, if you have a favorite meditation, you can do that. If this is new and you've never done meditation, you can try just closing your eyes and letting go of some of your thoughts and picturing maybe something that feels cooling. Maybe it's a certain color that feels cooling. Maybe it's water. Maybe it could be a smell. Maybe you can light some incense that feels cooling to you. There's a bunch of varieties of ways to meditate. So I say kind of find the one that works for you and just try it out. Maybe 5 minutes a day. But really what it does is it calms your mind. And when there's less motions, it feels cooler. It feels a little more restored. And then pranayama, which are breathing exercises. So the next presenter, Caitlin, will be going into a specific pranayama that you can do in this season. But it will help it's a breathing exercise, and it's going to redirect the air in your body. So that's what's getting all scattered and out of control and drying you out. So you'll redirect the breath in a more productive way. And then another way to externally avoid drying out is to try to avoid commercial beauty products or soaps. Those are really drying because there's a whole bunch of extra ingredients that you don't need that are there so they can stay on a shelf a really long time, and they're going to dry your skin out. So a really easy avoiding thing is to just use less of them or use them less often. Shampoo is really drying to the hair and the scalp. You can just use it less times a week. And if there's certain things you can't get away with, maybe you can try to find a more natural product that uses less ingredients or just more food-like ingredients. And that might sound funny, but here we like to use a lot of food things to just eat and clean ourselves. And if you think about it, the skin absorbs everything you put into it. So if you wouldn't eat your beauty product, you probably don't want to put it on your skin or in your hair or on your eyes or anything like that. So there's a few things you can do really easily, like aloe. You can buy an aloe plant, and you can use that pulp as a moisturizer. It's also really good for sunburn or windburn. You can use milk or cream on your face to wash it or to use as a moisturizer. And you can also grind up some mung dal or masoor dal to use as a soap for your body. And then another great tip is you can use any Raksha product we sell. So we have a room set up that you can look through today of products that we actually make here. But some great ones I'll just go over quickly are, we have a facial scrub. So this uses some dal as a base, and then it adds some soothing herbs to it. You can use this and you can mix it with water or milk or coconut oil, and you can wash your face with it. There's also a summer scrub. It's called a Pitta formula. So Pitta is the dosha that's a heating dosha. So this is great for the summer too. And you can use this as a soap. And then we have our calming facial oil, which uses coconut oil as a base and some other cooling herbs. And those are just a few, but the whole room back there is set up and you can kind of wander around and everything smells wonderful. And then one more tip is Abhyanga. So you may have heard of Abhyanga. You might not know how to do it or why you would do it or when not to do it. And Abhyanga is the Ayurveda's practice of self-massage. So it's like getting a massage every day, which sounds really luxurious, and it is. And it's a very simple thing. We actually sell some sesame oil back there that you can buy today, and you could start tomorrow. But you just heat up your oil. I have a little mug warmer that I bought at like a pharmacy. And you just plug it into the wall, and you can put your oil in a little glass jar, and it heats up on there. And this season is a great season to do a mix of half sesame and half coconut, because the coconut will keep you, both will keep you grounded, and then the coconut will also add that coolness to your body. And you just heat that up, and then you just rub it on your body. If you have a particular area that is a problem area, you might want to spend a little more time there, but you make sure you want to rub it on your joints, like the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz, right? Everyone needs a little oil. And then once you're done, I like to meditate after I do that. I like to do the Abhyanga and then sit there and meditate, and then you can take a shower. That's when you might want to use the scrub to scrub the oil off, and then you can just pat yourself dry, and you're ready to go, and you feel so much better than when you haven't done that. So some reasons we do it. So if you think about that dry muscle we were talking about before, the way to get it healthy again, you would want to give it some lubrication. You would want to give it some nourishment. So the oil will actually rub into your muscles, into your bones, depending on how long you do it. And it'll nourish all the parts of your body. And it keeps you, so it'll keep your skin moisturized, it'll keep your muscles lubricated, your joints will be lubricated, it'll help your hair, and it'll even bring tone to your muscles. It grounds the body physically and mentally. And at night, you can actually rub a little sesame oil on your feet. So if you do suffer from insomnia, you can put the sesame oil warm on your feet, put some socks on, and it'll really give you a good night's sleep. And then just the last tip about Abhyanga is there's a few times that you don't want to do Abhyanga. As good as it sounds, there's a few times that you don't want to do it because you still want it to be a service to your body. You don't want to, everything is not great all the time. There's rules. So when to avoid it is if you have a fever or if you have indigestion, during really rainy weather, if you're menstruating, or if you have rheumatoid arthritis. So there's just a brief thing. Mm-hmm.
What about pregnancy?
Pregnancy is okay, a little bit.
Every day. Every day.
We have a couple of minutes if you want to take questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that it's good to boil water and then cool it to room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
What is the boiling process of water?
So we like to drink warm water because when you add heat to your water, you're going to make it a little bit lighter. So normally we boil the water so that it helps the digestion. of your water and also your food. So when you drink cold water or you drink ice cold water, you're going to stop the fire that is your digestion. Because that's really all your stomach is doing, right? It's bringing heat to your food and cooking it more so your body can process it. So if you use really cold water, your body can't process it. So we add a little water, we give it like a little kickstart, but you don't want to have the temperature of it to be hot. So you can just bring it down to room temperature. And if you're in a place where there isn't, I always ask for my warm water. We all get used to it. You go to a restaurant, you have to ask for your hot water, and sometimes they're like, well, we don't have that. We don't know how to do that. But you can just ask for no ice. That's the minimal you can do when you're out somewhere else.
If you boil the water, then it becomes more digestible, which we want. But by cooling it, you don't take an extra heat, which we can't handle. So you have the advantage of both. In winter, we both boil it and have it hot. But in summer, we boil it, but we have it cool. And sometimes we don't know this, but water alone compromises our digestion. We drink our water and then we are flat on the bed digesting our water. So everything that goes in needs digestion, needs help. And somehow we talk about digesting food, but in the West, we just drink gallons and gallons of water as if that will bypass the digestive canal and somehow take care of itself. That doesn't happen and it becomes a liability. So hence we recommend to digest, but cool in this weather, as she explained. We want digested, but we don't want super hot temperature-wise. Okay.
My 8-year-old son, I just can't get him to drink water enough. He'll just have a few sips a day and that's it for him. And he just can't seem to take it down. He doesn't like to drink water. But I wonder what would be
In that case, we go
water.
back to the previous lecture. If we have to look at Shan and see, he may be already quite doing okay with AAP or water element. So as long as he's eating, eliminating, and he's quite happy and he's very smart. So we're good to go. Nobody can have just 8 glasses of water. I think that's a fabricated myth. Everybody drinks differently, and you can have but whatever water he drinks, if it's boiled and seasonally attuned, we are better off. But those 5 elements are important because somebody who has more fire in them will seem to be more thirsty, but somebody who has less fire in them, they have more airspace or water in them, then they will not be that thirsty.
So, I work in San Francisco, and I work where it's very cold every day, and I tend to always be cold anyway. So do you still want to do the more cool things, like, the room temperature water as opposed to hot water?
Even though you are in San Francisco and it's a microclimate, so you may want to, like, for example, not drink your water room temperature, but want to drink it a little warmer.
Okay.
You might want to be warmer drinking.
Okay.
But imagine your city is a small speck compared to the global climate that's operating. So you are more under the influence of the macroclimate. And therefore you do need to follow some of what she's saying, and then occasionally use your intuition to keep your temperature up.
One more question. So going back to your comment about water and digestion, do you have a recommendation on when you should drink water before you eat, like maybe 30 minutes before?
So the water drinking, the golden rule.
Mhm.
Should you drink a lot of water after eating? Should you drink it before eating? No. Stay normal, sit with a glass of water, and then take occasional steps, you eat, you chew, then you intuitively feel the need to take a sip, then you take a sip. Because in the stomach you need food also, air also, and water also. So if you drink a lot of water, you'll wipe off the fire. If you after eat you drink a lot of water, you will feel bloated and flooded. So you just sit with the water. If you are eating soupy food, you will not want to drink a lot of water. If you are eating dense, drying food, you will want some water. So you will have to let your intelligence and intuition guide you at that time. So we like to sit with appropriate amount of 8 ounces of water or a cup of water. Then slowly we take sips. So if I'm eating a lot of dal and rice and soupy food, I might take 2 sips. But if I'm eating, for example, I only eat dal and rice. What's the other food? We make sometimes make pancake of besan, chickpea flour. It's a little drying. That time I may take 4 or 5 sips of water. Ayurveda people's life is very monotonous.